We want to get straight to an important topic that is critical in the world today, which is supercharging private capital for a green transition. And I'd like to invite here on stage with me Dr. James Mwangi. He's the Group Managing Director and CEO of Equity Group Holdings and the Executive Chairman of Equity Group Foundation. A warm round of applause for James Mwangi. And I'd also like to invite up here on stage, please, to join us, the Deputy Speaker of the Egyptian Parliament, His Excellency, the Honorable Mohammed Abu El Enin, the Chairman and Founder also of Cleopatra Group. Please come here on stage and join us. So I can be in the middle here. Thank you. And here is your microphone, Excellency.
I have the one with me here.
Oh, you have one with you already. Excellent. You beat me to it. All right. Well, thank you so much once again for being with us. And I was listening to some of the conversation this morning, and I think basically the verdict is, on all of the panels that we've been listening to, is that the current financial system, the architecture as it is today, is just not working. James, is it time for the private sector to step in?
It is true, and I think the leaders were in agreement in the morning that the multilateral global financial system is not functioning to the needs, particularly of the developing world. Private capital is not a substitute, but it complements. Because it's unstoppable, Africa will not be stopped by a dysfunctional global financial system. We can start proceeding. And when it is fixed, it will join the race.
How do you practically go about dismantling an apparatus like this in reality?
As we were told in the morning, it will require political will. It is not the mechanics. The mechanics are okay. It's the political will to induce the change. But there is one thing that is certain. Climate change will reform the global financial system. It's of necessity that we must respond to the needs of the moment. So meanwhile, the private sector, and here private sector needs to work in collaboration with pension funds. Pension funds are long-term funds. It needs to work with the sovereign funds. It needs to work with money from philanthropists, so that we have a blended form of financing that can fill the gap as we wait for the global financial system to be fixed. Private capital have always solved the problems as long as incentives are aligned and policies are right. So the prerequisite is incentives, investment policies, consistency, predictability of policies, and lastly, of course, the right policy.
So what are your views on that, Excellency? What are your thoughts on what James was talking about and how private capital needs to step in here? And it's not about mechanics, it's about political will.
Actually, I do agree 100%. Political will. So no voice?
Aha, you see? Come prepared.
Okay. I do agree with you. Political will is the key. Could be the key for the country or for the continent. I believe the experience of what happened in Egypt could give a great example of this. The political will which we are talking about, 10 years ago, we were having a mess after what they call it about the spring in the Arabic countries, and the destruction which happened in the countries upon this. We were destroyed. No investment, no energy, no natural gas, no food, no medical service, but political will draw the vision. This is the drawing of the vision. When we talk about this, we start to say what's missing now. Natural gas. In order to have the energy, we start to explore the gas and encourage the foreign direct investment with special incentives and leverages. And we are now exporting the gas to all Europe and different countries.
And when it comes to climate financing and what,
when we
and
have
what James was talking about, how do you see that?
This is true. Also, the second thing is now we start to produce the green energy in order to fulfill the promise of our plan. Has been studied to withdraw already the Egyptian vision for 2017 to 2030, and we start to draw this vision to arrive to 44% in 2030. Now we are around 25% green energy. We are proud to tell you that in Egypt, in Aswan, the biggest project being done for solar energy. We are proud also to tell you that we are using all the facility. I remember 10 years ago when we are exposing this to the international market, the price for kilowatt was 14 cents, and people were hesitant to come. Today, the price, which for coming from the foreign direct investors, are 2 cents per kilowatt ampere. This is the advantage of the renewable energy. We are exporting now. Egypt exporting the energy to the neighbor, the country neighbor.
Okay.
So I think the facility for
Yeah.
the government, and also the vision which is drawing, and the finance which is happening, and the promotion. I think Africa need to promote their capability. Africa now, with the potential which everybody is talking about, we should be proud, and everybody has to talk about the potential and collect what he can do as investors from outside.
And when we're looking at some of the core aspects when it comes to the thinking around climate financing, James, what are some of the things that you reflect on that are the key priorities for all of us to consider as we approach this topic pretty much constantly, and it's so important in all our conversations?
If truly the world is to use the private capital, we must really think about markets. How do markets treat this class of assets, renewable energy? The second thing we must really consider is the incentive frameworks. If you look last year, the world gave nearly 7 trillion of incentives for fossil fuels. That framework is working against the ambition of the world. It needs to be retweaked. And lastly, is the issue of information. Africa has 60% of the potential renewable energy, but the private sector that would be investing still is not aware of that opportunity.
Why is that?
It's simply because we are blinded by perception. Africa will solve the climate change or energy structure of the world using geothermal, using hydro, using solar and wind power. But Africa has never prepared those projects as bankable projects to sell them to the world. So we need to rethink how we present the investment opportunities.
How would you rethink how we present the investment opportunities?
Well, as my colleague talk about marketing. Marketing is a very, very important. The potential of Africa has to be marketed. I think to draw the global vision, and I'm really proud of all what I've been hearing today from all the president and all the panelists a few hours ago. With this potential, we need to market. And marketing these things has to have special policies to market and to be easy for small and medium and big industries. I think the potential in agriculture could be a great opportunity for investors coming for the food for all over the world. The potential for renewable energy can be also exported to all over the world, not only for African people. If this is a plan, and how to encourage the people, the foreign direct investors coming from outside, to make him to be happy, to make him to be sure of the investment, to make him to be sure that he is having a good return and his investment is safe and stable in his country. I believe that with a promotion of global idea, this lead me to tell you something very important. We need make a project in Africa. We need to draw the plan for investment in Africa. we need to to talk about the roadmap. We need to talk a financial model, new model of finance. This new model, the same as what happened in Europe for the leasing. People can come to participate with you for factory or for farm or for energy, and with this idea, he can be the owner for a while and leave you later. He can buy your product when you produce for certain years. He can finance it with a good return, supplied and subsidized from his government. The developing country has a lot of initiatives to supply and to encourage their exportation outside.
Right.
I believe with this framework, we can do a lot of things.
And just picking up on a couple of things you said there, James, and you alluded to this a little bit earlier. You talked about blended finance. Could you tell us a little bit more about your thinking there, in particular, when it comes to sovereign wealth funds and how blended finance could be structured effectively?
If we are really feeling a gap left by the global or multilateral development banks financing, we must make sure the private sector is structured the same way. You look at the drawing rights, they are long-term, 30, 40 years. World Bank money is up to 50 and can be longer. And that is what will be missing, the issue of tenure. The second aspect is the cost structure. That World Bank money might be some of the cheapest. So when you bring private sector, there is need to take a blended approach so that you use philanthropic money to prove concept, to finance innovations, and to capacitate and de-risk the investments. Then you use pension funds and sovereign wealth funds for long-term tenure projects. And then you use the private capital for short-term and commercial needs of the investment. So that is why it is important we work together. None of them will succeed if they work on a standalone basis, because they need to complement each other. They need to complete the structure of appropriate financing for the projects we are talking about.
James, we were both in Nairobi for the climate summit at home together. We reunited here in New York. And I'm just curious, there was so much talk about carbon tax, right? What is your perspective?
I think the world rotates around two things. It rotates around seeking reward and avoiding penalty or avoiding punishment. I think we can't allow the world, we can't change the world by allowing it to go the same way, the same incentives. The same incentives will continue to produce the same results. So we must change the incentives. So if we are saying fossil fuels are the ones that really are causing the emissions, they are the cause of the problems, then you create a price for polluting. And that's, I think, the argument that is, and then reward those who are producing energy that is not polluting, or reward those who are providing the world with the carbon sinks. So you create incentives. So unless you create an incentive structure, it will not work. So I believe that is one of the proposals that has been put on the table for consideration.
Exactly. Thank you, James. I just have time now for one question. I'll pose it to the both of you. Excellency, what would you say to our audience here as well as watching online, which is quite significant right now, of the attractiveness of Africa as an overall investment destination today, particularly in the context of the kind of conversation that we're having?
Okay, I'm really proud to be African, and everybody, all the African has to be proud also. And we have to think well. We have to promote our opportunities in Africa. We have to think for a big mega project. And this big mega project can lead for a lot of community and a lot of industrial zone, a lot of agricultural community, and a lot of new ideas. Finance it from internally from African capital or from external, from other capital there. I'm quite sure that next year we are going to find a lot of surprise, because worldwide now are looking for Africa as a good chance for investment. Africa continent is rich with all the mineral, with all the potential for renewable energy, with all agriculture can be for the food, with also the location of Africa in the middle of the world has a value. And the added value today with a mega project. There is many other mega projects for the continent. One of them is coming from Cairo to Cape Town, is a road. When you make a road in the middle of the desert, you create and you build a new community. This is the added value for there. Also, for the River Nile. The River Nile is penetrated 11 different countries. And I believe thinking for the navigation of using the River Nile for transportation, especially if it's the local countries, I think it's worthwhile to think about it and to open the way from these 11 countries through the River Nile to the Mediterranean to Europe. This is another project. A lot of other projects also, as Egypt has been talking about, the universities, the education. Today, this year, we are having 77 new universities in Egypt. This is for most of them are for the modern education, for the future science, and I believe the Africans are invited to come to Egypt to have their education there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And James, final word?
I think Africa has chosen trade and investment as the basis of development. That it means an open invitation to the private sector. Africa is aware of what it has. It says it has land, it has the natural resources, whether it's a weed, whether it is thermal, or whether it is hydro, and he's saying, this is what I brings on the table. Private sector, bring capital, bring skills, and bring technology. We can't have a better environment than such a partnership. We are doing it together. Our interests are aligned, and that is what will protect the private sector capital.